The fading footprints of Emerald Isle. Welcome to this tranquil moment where the world beyond your resting place softly fades and a narrative begins to unfold like the quiet mists over ancient lands. Tonight, we journey to a place of stark beauty and deep mystery, an island shrouded in fog and time, where a life quietly vanished, leaving behind only echoes and the gentle, persistent questions of the sea. As the stillness settles around you and your breath deepens, allow your mind to drift with the subtle currents of this story. Our journey commences on a desolate stretch of the Irish coast in the early autumn of 2008. The air carried the crisp, salty tang of the Atlantic, perpetually churned by winds that had swept across vast open waters for centuries. Here, a short distance offshore, lay Emerald Isle, a name that hinted at verdant beauty, yet in reality, it was a place of rugged, untamed rock, its cliffs scarred by the relentless ocean, its interior dominated by wild, windswept heather and ancient stoic stone. The island's geology spoke of immense, silent forces. Volcanic eruptions millennia ago had shaped its craggy peaks and deep fissures, while the ceaseless erosion of the Atlantic had carved out dramatic sea caves and treacherous blowholes where the ocean's breath exhaled in powerful, roaring sighs. On this solitary outpost resided Dr. Alana Hayes, a marine biologist in her early 40s, a woman whose life was as meticulously ordered and reclusive as the island itself. Her cottage, a sturdy whitewashed dwelling with thick stone walls and a slate roof, clung precariously to the cliff face, its windows perpetually misted by the sea spray, offering an uninterrupted vast panorama of the churning ocean. The interior, though modest, was filled with the quiet tools of her trade, an array of microscopes, water testing kits, and charts depicting the bewildering contours of the deep sea floor. Alana had chosen this isolated existence deliberately. Her work, a profound and groundbreaking study of the deep-sea ecosystems surrounding the island, demanded unwavering focus and an almost ascetic dedication, a singular devotion that few could comprehend. Her days unfolded with a precise, almost ritualistic rhythm. Early morning hours were often spent in solitary contemplation, observing the first light creep over the eastern horizon, illuminating the jagged peaks of the island. Then, the careful preparation of her diving equipment, each gauge checked, each seal inspected with painstaking attention to detail. This was followed by long solitary dives into the frigid, often turbulent depths surrounding the isle, sometimes lasting for hours, her silhouette a fleeting shadow against the murky green. Afternoons were consumed by the meticulous analysis of the samples she painstakingly collected from the abyssal plains, strange, gelatinous creatures, unique mineral formations, and ancient sediments, all cataloged and examined in her rudimentary yet functional home laboratory. Late evenings stretched into long, contemplative hours, spent meticulously recording her findings in sprawling hand-bound journals and drafting intricate scientific papers on her old, well-worn wooden desk, the only sound the persistent scratch of her pen or the distant roar of the ocean. She rarely left the island, finding everything she needed within its rugged confines or through her weekly supply drops from the mainland. These vital deliveries were handled by Liam, a grizzled old fisherman whose face was a roadmap of sun and sea. Liam understood Alana's profound need for solitude, and their interactions were brief, a minimalist ballet of shared understanding, communicating mostly in a series of grunts, nods, and knowing glances. Their weekly exchanges involved Liam unloading crates of non-perishable food, fresh water, and specialized scientific components, while Alana provided him with meticulous lists for the following week. Alana's communication with the outside world was minimal, primarily confined to academic emails, exchanged with distant, equally specialized colleagues on research topics, and the occasional brief, almost reluctant phone call with her only living relative, an estranged sister named Maeve, who lived in a bustling city miles away on the mainland. Maeve often expressed concern about Alana's solitary lifestyle, but their conversations were always tinged with a long-standing tension, a quiet disagreement about life choices that dated back years. No one would describe Alana as sociable or even particularly warm in conventional terms. She was a scholar, a scientist, driven by an insatiable, almost consuming curiosity about the unseen world beneath the waves, a realm more alien and unexplored than distant planets. Her life was a quiet hum, a methodical, relentless investigation into the profound, dark mysteries of the deep. The island itself, with its raw, untamed beauty, seemed a perfect reflection of her own independent spirit. The constant ebb and flow of the tide, the predictable yet powerful storms, the deep silent pressures of the ocean depths, these were the constants of her existence, providing a profound sense of purpose. The first faint tremor of concern, a subtle discord in the island's usual quiet harmony, began on a particular Wednesday. Liam, arriving with the week's supplies, navigated his small, sturdy fishing boat through the familiar choppy waters of the Sound, making his way towards the small natural cove where Alana always moored her research vessel. As he approached her cottage, perched stoically on the cliff, he noticed a crucial anomaly. Her heavy wooden door, typically secured with a robust iron latch, was ajar, swinging slightly in the persistent breeze. This was highly uncharacteristic for Alana, whose meticulous habits extended to every aspect of her life, especially security on such an isolated outcrop. He called out her name, his voice, normally strong against the elements, swallowed almost instantly by the mournful wail of the wind and the relentless thunderous roar of the crashing ocean waves against the cliffs below. There was no response. His gaze then shifted to Alana's small specialized research boat, her primary means of transport for her solitary dives. It was moored securely at its usual spot, bobbing gently with the tide, but its equipment, typically in some state of use or drying, was neatly stowed and dry. This was highly unusual. Alana rarely left her vessel idle, or her diving gear out of immediate reach if she intended to be away for long. Liam, a man of few words but deep ingrained intuition, honed by decades on the sea, felt a cold knot tighten in his gut. He knew with a certainty that transcended mere logic that something was profoundly, terribly amiss. The very air around the cottage felt different, heavy with an inexplicable quietude. He entered the cottage cautiously, his heavy boots echoing faintly on the stone floor. The interior was meticulously tidy, as always, an almost clinical order prevailing. Scientific instruments, microscopes, centrifuges, various water testing kits lay neatly arranged on a sturdy wooden workbench, gleaming faintly in the diffused light. Half-filled beakers containing mysterious solutions stood on a counter, their contents still. An old, leather-bound research paper was open on her old wooden desk, her precise, almost architectural handwriting trailing off mid-sentence as if she had been interrupted in the middle of a thought. Her extensive diving gear, usually damp from recent use and left to air dry, hung dry and neatly packed on its designated rack by the fireplace. The silence within the cottage was absolute, a profound stillness that was unsettling, save for the persistent creak of the old timbers, responding to the island's eternal winds and the distant, mournful cries of gulls circling overhead. Liam surveyed the scene with a heavy heart, his gaze lingering on a small, untouched plate of breakfast, a half-eaten piece of toast, and a cooling, forgotten mug of tea. The very domesticity of these items, juxtaposed with the profound silence, suggested an abrupt and unexpected departure, one that had interrupted her morning routine with startling suddenness. He stepped back out, his eyes scanning the rugged terrain immediately surrounding the cottage, looking for any sign, any disturbance in the heather, any misplaced stone, any impression on the soft earth. He found none. The island, perpetually shrouded in its ever-present mists, seemed to absorb all traces, holding its secrets close, as if refusing to yield them. Liam, a man deeply familiar with the glacial pace of mainland bureaucracy when it concerned remote islanders, knew that the official authorities would be slow to react to the unexplained disappearance of a reclusive scientist on an isolated outcrop. He therefore made the arduous journey himself, a long, bone-rattling boat ride across the choppy sound to the nearest coastal town. He arrived at the small, unassuming police station, its windows overlooking the fishing boats in the harbor, and reported Alana's absence with a grave countenance. The local Gardaí, a small force accustomed to handling mundane village disputes, minor fishing infractions, and occasional drunken brawls, rather than high-stakes missing persons cases involving scientific enigma, initially responded with a predictable measure of skepticism and polite dismissal. They suggested with calm assurances that Alana had likely gone on an unscheduled, solitary research expedition, perhaps venturing to another, even more remote and inaccessible islet in the vast expanse of the Atlantic, or that she simply desired even greater solitude than usual. Liam, however, remained unwavering and resolute in his conviction. He painstakingly conveyed his deep personal unease, highlighting Alana's unwavering adherence to her precise routine and her extreme meticulousness in all matters, underscoring how her current absence deviated profoundly from her established patterns. He emphasized the untouched breakfast, the open door, the neatly stowed, dry gear, his quiet but persistent arguments, coupled with the unusual details he described, eventually managed to sway the initially reluctant Gardaí to dispatch a small team to investigate the mysterious circumstances on Emerald Isle. The wheels of official inquiry, though slow, had finally begun to turn. The Garda team, a small contingent led by Sergeant Kira O'Malley, a pragmatic, sharp-minded, and exceptionally observant officer known for her calm demeanor under pressure, arrived on the island a day later. Their official Garda boat cut through the choppy waters of the Sound, its engine a deep thrum against the backdrop of the waves. The initial, cursory search of the cottage immediately confirmed Liam's earlier observations. There were absolutely no discernible signs of forced entry, no overturned furniture, no broken objects suggesting a struggle, and nothing overtly out of place beyond the profound and unsettling fact of Alana's absence itself. It was as if she had simply stepped out of her meticulously ordered life and vanished seamlessly into the pervasive, concealing mist that often clung to the island. The chilling lack of any obvious disturbance was, in itself, profoundly disturbing, presenting a perplexing paradox to the experienced officers. It strongly pointed to a departure that was either entirely voluntary and meticulously planned to leave no trace, or incredibly swift, silent, and executed with an unseen precision, leaving no physical evidence of a struggle or intrusion. The silence within the cottage was absolute, heavy with unspoken questions. The official investigation commenced in earnest, despite the inherent and formidable challenges presented by the remote and untamed conditions of the island. Sergeant O'Malley and her small team of dedicated officers meticulously combed through every inch of the cottage, painstakingly searching for any minute anomalies, any microscopic trace of evidence that might conceivably offer a vital clue, a thread to follow in this bewildering labyrinth. They found nothing beyond Alana's own personal possessions, all neatly arranged. Her extensive research notes, filled with complex scientific diagrams and precise data points, lay stacked in organized piles. Her personal journal, written in a hand that was both precise and surprisingly eloquent, sat on her bedside table. Her sparse, practical clothing hung neatly in her wardrobe. Every item seemed to be in its rightful, expected place. The only item that felt remotely out of character, and thus garnered particular attention, was a small, well-worn, leather-bound book found tucked beneath her pillow. It was clearly not a scientific text, but rather a surprisingly old and fragile collection of local island folklore and ancient Gaelic legends, filled with handwritten annotations in Alana's precise script. This was an unexpected detail for a woman so dedicated to empirical science, suggesting a private, perhaps almost secret, interest that contrasted sharply with her outward scientific persona. This small volume quickly became a point of quiet fascination for Sergeant O'Malley. Detectives proceeded to conduct exhaustive interviews with Liam, the last person to have seen Alana, and the few mainland contacts Alana had, including her estranged sister, Maeve. Maeve, a woman whose urban life stood in stark contrast to Alana's isolation, described Alana as exceptionally brilliant but intensely private, someone who had always prioritized her demanding scientific work above all else, often, she admitted, at the expense of personal relationships and family connections. Maeve expressed deep concern and genuine distress over her sister's disappearance, but admitted she hadn't spoken to Alana in months, a typical and long-standing pattern for their strained and distant relationship. She could offer no concrete insights into any recent changes in Alana's life. No one, absolutely no one, could offer a plausible or logical reason for such a sudden, unannounced departure. There were no known enemies, no recent conflicts or bitter disagreements, no apparent financial troubles that might precipitate a sudden flight, and no romantic entanglements that could explain such an abrupt vanishing. Alana's life, by all accounts available to the investigators, appeared to be as clear, cold, and transparent as the deep ocean she dedicated her life to studying. The absence of a conventional motive was as perplexing as the absence of a body. The search for Alana Hayes then expanded dramatically, encompassing the entire rugged and challenging landscape of Emerald Isle. Emergency services, including a specialized search and rescue team composed of experienced mountaineers and trained coastal guards, arrived to systematically sweep every conceivable inch of the island's desolate and often treacherous terrain. They scaled the sheer, unforgiving cliffs that dropped precipitously into the churning Atlantic, their ropes silhouetted against the gray sky. They meticulously explored hidden coves, accessible only at specific fleeting moments of extreme low tide, their flashlights cutting through the damp darkness. They navigated the dense, thorny heather that blanketed the island's interior, each step a struggle through the tangled growth. Drone surveys were meticulously conducted, capturing high-resolution aerial views of every nook and cranny, every inaccessible crevice and remote outcrop. Dogs specially trained for scent detection were brought in, their keen noses working diligently through the damp earth, the salty air, and the pervasive scent of heather and seaweed, tirelessly covering miles of ground. Yet, for days that bled into weeks, their exhaustive efforts yielded no tangible results. The island, ancient and unyielding, seemed to absorb Alana without a trace, leaving no discernible mark of her passing. The omnipresent wind carried only the plaintive cry of the gulls and the incessant, powerful roar of the ocean waves crashing against the implacable shore. Hope began to wane as the days passed, replaced by a growing sense of despair. Sergeant O'Malley, deeply frustrated by the profound lack of physical evidence and the baffling nature of the disappearance, found herself drawn back to Alana's quiet cottage. She sought inspiration not from forensic reports, but from the very essence of the calm, orderly space Alana had inhabited. Her gaze, time and again, returned to the small leather-bound collection of local folklore lying by Alana's bedside. She began to read Alana's meticulous handwritten annotations, her scientific mind intrigued by the unexpected intersection of empirical study and ancient legend. She noticed a particular, almost obsessive focus on legends of the Sidiho, the fairy folk or spirits, and ancient tales of islanders disappearing inexplicably into the vast turbulent sea during periods of unusually thick fogs. These legends often recounted how the lost individuals were said to be lured by ethereal, shimmering lights or strange, haunting songs emanating from the depths, never to be seen again. While she, as a rational officer of the law, initially dismissed these as mere superstitions, she could not ignore the precise manner in which Alana, the scientist, had annotated them. Alana's notes consistently tied these fantastical legends to specific, verifiable geographical features of the island, certain isolated caves, particular treacherous rock formations, or areas of unusually strong and unpredictable oceanic currents. This surprising congruence suggested that Alana, the rigorous scientist, was not merely reading folklore for amusement, but was treating it as a cryptic map, a potential guide to something real, something she was actively investigating. One recurring and heavily annotated legend centered around a place known locally as the Whisperer's Cave, a notorious sea cave rumored in the island's most ancient tales to be a dangerous portal to another realm, or a place where the veil between the known world and the unknown was exceptionally thin. Alana's notes indicated a profound and almost obsessive interest in its unique and complex tidal patterns and a particular exceptionally deep fissure within it, a chasm described in the legends with chilling reverence as the tongue of the abyss. This specific cave was notoriously difficult to access, known only to a few hardy local fishermen and divers, and was truly navigable only during a specific rare confluence of extremely low tide and unusually calm sea conditions, an event that occurred perhaps only a few times a year. Alana's extensive notes included precise calculations of these rare tidal windows, almost as if she had been planning an expedition there for a long time. She had even drawn detailed hand-sketched maps of the cave's interior, annotating potential areas of interest within the tongue of the abyss. More than a week after Alana's vanishing, with the weather forecast predicting a narrow, unprecedented window of exceptionally calm seas and a significant low tide, a meteorological anomaly for the season, Sergeant O'Malley, driven by a growing intuitive hunch derived from Alana's detailed notes, made a daring decision. She assembled a specialized, highly experienced diving team from the mainland, consisting of experts in cave diving and deep-sea exploration. They embarked on the treacherous journey to the Whisperer's Cave, their purpose now far clearer, guided by the precise coordinates and tidal information painstakingly recorded by Alana. The entrance to the cave was indeed a narrow, water-worn fissure, barely large enough for a single diver to pass through, requiring immense skill and courage. Inside, after navigating the tight passage, the cave opened into a vast, echoing chamber, its ceiling lost in the perpetual gloom, its ancient walls slick with perpetual dampness. The only illumination came from the powerful lights affixed to the divers' helmets and equipment, cutting through the murky, cold water, revealing fleeting glimpses of colossal rock formations and submerged pathways. The air within the cave was cold, profoundly damp, and carried the heavy primordial smell of salt, ancient rock, and undiscovered depths. Following Alana's meticulously annotated map from the well-worn folklore book, and cross-referencing it with her scientific calculations. The divers carefully navigated through the main chamber, their powerful lights cutting through the pervasive gloom of the murky water. They eventually located the tongue of the abyss, a deep, narrow, almost perfectly vertical crack in the cave floor, previously dismissed by geologists as merely an unusual but insignificant geological anomaly. As they descended slowly, cautiously, into this chilling fissure, the water grew colder still, its pressure increasing with each foot of descent, and the darkness outside their immediate light grew more absolute, more profound. The descent was long, unnerving, pushing the limits of their equipment and their own courage. It was here, at a staggering depth far greater than anyone would have expected, a depth that tested the very limits of human endurance and the capabilities of deep-sea diving equipment, that they found a small, oddly shaped, fully waterproof research buoy. It was unequivocally Alana's, specifically designed for deep-sea data collection and capable of withstanding immense pressure. It had been meticulously tethered to a rock formation near the mouth of the fissure. Attached to this buoy was a small, secure, clear plastic case, its contents perfectly preserved against the crushing pressure and the pervasive dampness. Inside the case, they found two items of profound significance: a sealed waterproof data stick and a single small hand-painted seashell, its surface smooth and iridescent. The data stick contained a series of encrypted files, a digital vault of Alana's final, most critical work. The seashell was painted with a very intricate, almost microscopic, yet remarkably detailed depiction of a strange, alien-looking bioluminescent creature. This creature, Alana's notes would later confirm, had never before been documented by science. It lived at extreme, unfathomable depths, and most crucially, emitted a strange, powerful, pulsating light, a light unlike anything known to terrestrial marine biology. The encrypted files on the data stick, once painstakingly retrieved and decrypted by highly specialized experts on the mainland using advanced cryptographic techniques, unveiled Alana's groundbreaking and astonishing findings. Her research revealed the existence of an entirely new, complex, and previously unknown ecosystem thriving at these unimaginable depths, a world teeming with unique life forms. This deep-sea world was sustained by a unique form of chemosynthesis, drawing energy from chemical reactions rather than sunlight. At the heart of this newly discovered ecosystem was a species of large, previously unknown bioluminescent invertebrates, the very creatures depicted on the seashell. These organisms produced a powerful, intense, and profoundly hypnotic light, a light that Alana's preliminary findings indicated could disorient and even temporarily incapacitate other marine life, and, chillingly, potentially humans if exposed for prolonged periods underwater in the deep. Her final, most urgent notes suggested a daring, almost reckless theory that some of the ancient island disappearances, long attributed to luring spirits or mythological beings, might actually have been caused by accidental, tragic encounters with these previously unknown, light-emitting organisms. The legends, it seemed, had a terrifying scientific basis. Alana's final entry in her digital log, dated the morning of her disappearance, offered a chilling and poignant insight into her last moments. It described her unwavering intention to undertake one final, deeper dive into the fissure, a descent into the tongue of the abyss, to confirm a crucial specific hypothesis about the creature's sensory disruption capabilities. She mentioned observing a faint, unusual, yet undeniably compelling luminescence emanating from the very deepest reaches of the fissure, a light that seemed to actively draw her in, beckoning her towards the ultimate discovery. The log ended abruptly, mid-sentence, mirroring the unfinished research paper that still lay open on her desk in the cottage above. The implication was stark and clear. Alana had, in fact, found what she was looking for, the scientific breakthrough she had dedicated her life to. But the encounter had been fatal. She had likely succumbed to the overwhelming, disorienting effects of the creature's powerful light, losing her spatial awareness and direction in the immense pressure and absolute darkness of the deep fissure, rendering her unable to navigate her way back to the surface. Her body was never recovered. The vast, cold, and ancient ocean, her lifelong subject of intense study, had ultimately claimed her, pulling her into its deepest, most secret, and unyielding embrace. The news of Alana Hayes' tragic and extraordinary fate rippled slowly through the global scientific community, igniting a wave of awe and profound sorrow. More subtly, it spread through the quiet, close-knit lanes of Emerald Isle and the nearby coastal towns. Her groundbreaking discovery, meticulously documented in her final research, revolutionized deep-sea biology, unveiling an entirely new chapter in our understanding of marine ecosystems and the astonishing biodiversity of the abyssal plains. It revealed a hidden world, thriving against all odds, challenging previous notions of life on Earth. Yet, while her scientific legacy blossomed, her disappearance also brought a poignant and sorrowful closure to her personal story, explaining her silent vanishing not as a crime committed by human hands, but as a tragic, almost poetic, absorption into the very mysteries she had sought to understand and unveil. The small, intricately hand-painted seashell found with her research became a quiet, enduring symbol of her last, most profound discovery, a silent testament to her dedication. The islanders of Emerald Isle spoke of Alana's fate in hushed tones, their voices tinged with a blend of scientific understanding and ancient reverence. Some suggested she had indeed been taken by the Sida, the ancient spirits of the island, but now the ancient legends had been intertwined with a chilling scientific explanation for the mysterious disappearances that had haunted their oral history for generations. Her fading footprints, once a source of perplexing mystery, led not to a criminal's lair or a tragic human conflict, but to the deepest, most unseen shadow of the ocean itself, a realm of wonders and perils previously unimagined. The profound mystery of her disappearance eventually dissolved not into fear, but into a quiet, almost spiritual contemplation of the vast unexplored wonders that still exist within our world, and the immense compelling lengths to which human curiosity, dedication, and courage will reach in the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Her story became a quiet legend, spoken of in the misty evenings, a reminder of the thin veil between myth and discovery, and the profound beauty and danger of the unknown. As the quiet stillness envelops you now, and the gentle sounds of the night begin their lullaby, let the story of Dr. Alana Hayes, the dedicated marine biologist of Emerald Isle, drift softly through your thoughts. Consider the deep, silent places of the world, teeming with undiscovered life, and the remarkable lives dedicated to bravely uncovering their secrets, even at the greatest personal cost. May this tale leave you with a sense of wonder, a touch of gentle mystery, and a calm, peaceful heart as you drift into slumber, knowing that even in the deepest darkness, light and answers can be found.